All right, welcome to the Thursday dev stream. I say that as if I have a dev stream every Thursday, but I don't. I just stream at random times. And right now happens to be a Thursday. Okay, so I'm just checking my mic. This is the first time I've ever streamed on YouTube. Gonna see how this goes. Usually I stream on Twitch, but Twitch kind of, they got rid of their game dev section and all kinds of things that have been making that not as good, so I thought I'd give YouTube a shot, and we'll see how this goes. We're going to be working on Songs of Glimmerwick, the open world Witch Academy RPG where you play as a farming wizard, which I'm sure you've heard of if you're here in this stream. So today we're working on a mini game. So there's Fall Festival, we call it the Pumpkin Moon Fest, and I've been working on arting the mini game. So it's kind of a cornhole-esque game we're calling the Apple Toss. And I'm just going to make sure that I have synced here. So I'm getting latest Perforce, which is our version control. And then there's a number of files I need to check out. So I need to check out the Blender file for this thing, which is called Skee Ball, because it kind of looks like a skee ball, at least the original pitch for this thing. I'm going to move my coffee because I'm pretty sure I'm going to knock it over. Okay. Skee ball. Let's put that in our change list. If you've never used version control, the change list is just all the files that you're going to change. Keeping things tidy. All right, so we also are going to need the Apple Toss prefab. In fact, I'm going to, a new streaming platform. I just want to make sure everything's okay. So I'm going to change. That seems like my mic is working and everything. So we're going to need the Apple Toss prefab. Here we go. Open that thing and check it out. What else do we need? Well, we're going to need the mesh. Let's grab the Apple Toss mesh. I'm going to check that out because we're going to undoubtedly write to it here. And hey, here we go. Hey, Mitzi. Gonna see if I can. I remember a Mitzi from Twitch, but I don't know if it's the same Mitzi now. Everyone's name is going to be different. I assume a lot of folks who watch on Twitch probably also have YouTubes. All right, so let's play the game. We've got quite a bit of work to do. Going to see how things are looking at the moment. Okay. Oops. All right, so I need to make sure we're in the correct start settings, because right now we have the wrong start settings. I'm going to exit out of play mode. Okay, gotcha. All right then. Well, welcome to the stream then. Happy you dropped by. All right, so popping out of play mode here, and I'm going to set our start settings to developer start settings. And hopefully then we'll be able to play the game. All right, here we go. This is what we have so far. And the lighting is just so harsh. Oversaturated. That's gonna miss. I really think we need to get some kind of cast shadow working in here. There we go. Oh man, I'm on a roll. Okay. All right, cool. So we need something, well, the ground is just completely plain at the moment, so we'll need to work on that. So let's take a poke at that ground. Hello, Vaughn. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, we just added that yesterday, the different color apples. All right, so I'm gonna turn on the Apple Toss mini game so we can see what we're doing. And first things first, I don't know why this ground is plain. A pumpkin floor, I could have sworn I put yeah, we just got white in here for some reason. So I'm gonna check out this material and I'm gonna set it to some kind of cobble. It's not cobble, but it's supposed to be the bottom of a pumpkin. Seems like this might work. And we've already done this yesterday. I don't know why we lost that. Very strange. I think this might be the closest bet. And then I'm just going to reduce the alpha cutoff. And let's increase the tiling. And then I'm going to look through the game view. Okay, so we've got a little bit here. I'm going to stretch. You can see the cobbles on the floor. They're just at a glancing angle. So I'm just going to stretch them a little bit, kind of according to the camera view. There we go. All right. Ugh, and then the background is just so heinous. So Jacqueline whipped up a really, really quick concept. And the first thing I see is that there's just much lower contrast. It's also very heavy vignetting. So everything about this thing is lower contrast. I'm gonna maybe, there's a bit of fog we can add to this interior. I don't know, do we want that? I'm trying to think of the best way to go about this. We could add in the actual UI, we could actually add like some kind of gradients. Gradient backgrounds. The radial gradients. Could try one of these gradients. Let's go ahead and add a new image. Okay, UI image. I'm gonna stick, oh, it made a new canvas for some reason. Come on, in this one. Create a UI image. And then I'm gonna do a gradient, a couple different gradients. Let's just start with like this one. Oh, horizontal two-sided gradient. No, we don't want that. Go with this. Okay, and then I want it to cover the entire screen. And again, I'm just attempting to sort of take out some of the contrast here. I'm gonna stretch it to the screen. I'm gonna go 0, 0, all the sides. Now we've just got like this, should be this white mist. And then we can take that mist and make it a reasonable color and sort of decrease the saturation, or sorry, the opacity. Let's go ahead and save. Okay, so that's taking out a lot of contrast. I think it's making everything sit a little bit better. But we still have that insane background. Yeah, let's just completely take some of the saturation and brightness out. You know, it's not a great place to look at it because we have extra lighting from the sun coming in. It's not exactly representative of how it looks in game, but I have to imagine even in game it was a little bit too punchy. Look, it looks so dark and muted in here. Anyhow, pumpkin wall. I'm just going to take out some of that saturation. Let's check out that material. Take out some of that saturation a little bit and maybe make it a little bit darker. Another thing is we might try putting some texture in the wall. I don't know what kind of texture this would be. Like what does the inside of a pumpkin look like? Like we could try this like almost like wood grain look. I just don't know what is going to look right. Let's maybe try that. Oh, it's so dark now I can barely see it. Oh, we've also got a looks like there's no UVs on the actual mesh here. So I'm just going to unwrap the mesh. And now we should have some UVs to work with. I want to make sure that all of these little bits here are going up and down, just like the pumpkin of the back wall. Hatre, hello, welcome to the chat, asks, will there be something in the game like tiers of items that we will unlock? If so, will we always have to unlock everything, or will we have some freedom and various options? Tiers of items, do you mean like crafting stuff? There's a little bit of crafting in the game, but it's not like, no, I wouldn't necessarily say tiers of items in like a don't starve sense, where you're like building up all the time. You know, you got to craft one thing to craft the next thing to craft the next thing. It's not really like that. It's more quest driven. The game is very quest driven. True, it would be dried out. Some high frequency vertical lines would help. Give that a shot. Yeah, it's an older version of Blender. Okay. Yes, so let's give that a save, and then I'm going to export. Oops. So the export's not working because I don't think I have that one apple writable. There we go. Okay, so now we've got some lines. Of course, all the lines are going the wrong way. I'm going to rotate them all 90 degrees, save it, export, pop back into Unity. Okay, so there's some grain lines, and I think that does look pretty good. I think that the higher frequency we make it, the more it's going to reveal the sort of wood grain pattern to these, which I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So there's that. Back up. I'm going to turn this off, and let's take another peek at what it looks like in game mode. 29 concurrent viewers. That's a lot for having just started streaming a few minutes ago. How long have I even been streaming now? I don't see the uptime. Seems good anyway compared to Twitch, and I've never ever streamed on YouTube before, so. Okay, so that's way lower contrast. I think it's actually maybe a little bit too strong now. The low contrast look is pretty intense. And it's kind of hard to tell it's a pumpkin. So I think that background texture needs a little bit more like orange in it. And then the gradient card needs to go behind all the UI elements. And I think it needs to be a little bit lighter as well. 15 minutes. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that seems quite good. Inside of a tree to me. Well, inside of a tree, inside of a pumpkin. They're both things that grow out of the ground. Let's see. I'm gonna get this chat a little bit. I feel like it's so far over here. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, let me catch up with chat. I missed a few messages here. Chembot asks, do you make all your assets on Blender? Well, Jacqueline, my wife, who is the lead artist and lead designer of this game, she illustrates a lot of stuff. So, but any sort of modeling, any sort of 3D modeling that needs to happen, there is a bit of 3D modeling in this game because we're using a very strange art pipeline, which is kind of like a mix. Like this house, you can see it does have a little bit of 3D mesh to it, but it's mostly illustrated. So Jacqueline draws the illustration and then I project it onto a mesh. See, this fence right here is actually completely modeled. And then all the foliage and vegetation, they're just a bunch of alpha cards. And then the people, it's all skeletal animation. They're also alpha cards. So yeah, any 3D that needs to happen, we do Blender. Mitzi asks, why do you use an older version? The reason, yeah, basically plugin support first. One specific plugin that I wrote myself, which is my exporter. I really are very particular about the way I want things to export to the engine. And I wrote my own exporter to do it, and now really don't want to rewrite it. And there's nothing about the new Blender that has been made me like go, oh, well, I need that. That's going to help me a lot. So basically just stick to the old one until there's a reason to upgrade. Yeah, well, we'll see how the YouTube thing goes. It feels good so far. I mean, I stream because well, a little bit just to, you know, put our studio out there and stuff, but it also kind of helps me focus sometimes depending on what I'm doing. So you know, if more people see this stream and we have more viewers, then I'll probably stick more to YouTube. I might even try multicasting. But for today, I just wanted to do just on YouTube so I can focus on that. I think it'd be kind of hard since I don't really know the platform yet, just kind of learning that while also doing a Twitch stream. Atre says, so more like in Witchwood. Okay, quest items, combine them, deliver. Yeah, so Witchwood is similar in that it is an adventure game, but it's Witchwood. I really enjoyed Witchwood. I really like the game, but it is very laundry list-ish. Like you really, you know, everything is like one item away, and you're always like collecting the items to craft the thing to complete the quest, to get to the next area, to get the more items that craft the things, to craft the other thing. It's not like that. There's a little bit of that, but it's nowhere near to the extent of Witchwood, I would say. Oh, right, more orange. Gotcha, Vaughn. I was just kidding. It probably should not look like the inside of a tree. Hey, rock on. Well, I'm glad your girlfriend is looking forward to the game and loves the art style. Appreciate the kind words. Rock on. Okay, great. Hey, girly gamer from Australia. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. All right, so we need to go into our pumpkin and make the back wall more orange. Here we go. Pumpkin wall. Okay, so right now it's in very much the pink direction. Let's see if we can bring it into the orange direction. So that's red. Here we go. So I'm going to add some more yellow into it because the actual texture is a little bit pink. In fact, it might be easier if we desaturate texture. There we go. Now we can have more control over the actual color. Let's try to get it into an orange direction, or pumpkin-like. It's very dark. I think I can pump some brightness into it using the extra brightness value. Something like that. I'm wondering if these lines here should actually be, I don't know, they have different UVs, and I don't know if we actually need different UVs. In order to make them all just have the same sort of UVs, no, I was gonna project from the view, but that's gonna have other problems because I really want those lines. I want them to conform to the curvature. So I think we're gonna have to go with that. Okay, more pumpkin-y, more saturated, and then we also have the little gradient thing, which we also want to. Well, let's call this like fog, I guess, and let's put it higher up in the canvas, and that'll make it go behind stuff. It's very red. Let's make it orange, like a pumpkin. Pumpkins are orange. And I'll go ahead and brighten it a little bit. I still can't get an orange color. I guess desaturated orange is kind of just brown, isn't it? And then we will just decrease the alpha, and I cannot see how this is looking, so we're just gonna have to pop back in. Maybe really pump up the orange here and just decrease that alpha and give that a save. Okay. Yeah, you know, that's probably something I should do, DGen. Gotta use the reference. Oh, Mitzi asks, how come the pumpkin mesh has way more polys? It's because we have a turbo smooth modifier on it, or subsurf modifier. Okay. Yeah, you know, it almost, in this one instance, since this is a giant pumpkin that we're inside of, kind of a situation you'd never actually have. I'm not sure how important the actual inside of a pumpkin is inside of a pumpkin, but you know, I really should take a look just to do my due diligence. It just looks like a squash, but yeah, there is like this like stringy texture. It's this texture I think that we want. Oh my God, I've gone to some website. It's like that in the back there, that sort of brain looking stuff, the back wall. Which I don't think that the texture we have is necessarily terrible. All right, let's take a peek now. Okay, take a peek. All right, here we go. Ooh, it's just, it has no orange to it. Let's grab that pumpkin wall, and while in play mode, let's see if we can turn off that overlay and increase the extra brightness. Geez, it's barely doing anything, this extra brightness. Just doesn't look like a pumpkin. I wonder if there's some sort of cloud texture or something that'll do it better. That looks insane. Or like some kind of noise. See if there's any sort of noise textures that do the trick here. Can make this thing look more pumpkin-like. No, nothing. It is like a cloudy thing. Try that. The problem is we have all this like contrast that we don't want. This looks terrible. This looks absolutely terrible. Terrible direction to go in. What am I thinking? Yeah. Take a look at the reference here. It just has so. Just the value is wrong. There we go. That's better. That's better. Okay. And then I think that these lines, I wish I could make them a little softer. Probably our best bet is just to go into Blender, and I'm going to just paint them like slightly less dark here, just so that they have a little bit less contrast. Okay, they need a little bit more than that. Guess they need a little bit more than that. Seems like I'm almost back to where I was before. Yeah, well, maybe they don't want any texture though. Maybe it's better if they just don't have any texture. I'm just gonna scale this thing down super small, put it on a random pixel. Okay, yeah, I think it's better if they don't have any texture. And yeah, it also, I just wish we could get this thing curving a little bit more as well, like squeeze in the sides. I'm gonna keep the game running. I'm gonna mute the audio though, because there's that thing pulsing, that beat there. Don't want that. Yeah, I know what you mean, Mitzi. Staring at something too long. Yeah, could try that. Could try that. Lots of things to try. Let me try squishing in. I want some more curvature. I'm just really struggling to get curvature. Let me do a pinch, a sharp fall off here, and just try to really, really curve the bejesus out of this thing. So it really feels like the inside of a pumpkin. There we go. That feels more like the inside of a pumpkin. Of course, now you can actually see the sides, which we don't want. So in order to mitigate that, I think what we can do is maybe just give ourselves a little bit more here. I'll even go, well, let's just pull that back and then run an unwrap again. Okay, we're gonna have to pull these out at least a little bit, There we go. No, that's not too bad. Okay, well, that's something. I don't know. It's something. Not good. It's ugly. But it is a mini game, you know, it doesn't have to be the craziest thing in the world. One thing that will help probably is just more details. Like we've got the giant candles Jacqueline has in here. So we could go with those. Yeah, let's put in our giant candles. Let's see if we can find some candles. Someone plays widescreen. It should. Yeah, actually, I didn't think of that. I don't know. Someone has that super duper widescreen. That our whole game is destroyed. So we have to find a way to not let that happen because you know, it's a fixed camera game and all of the compositions are sort of composed for 16:9. So I think we'll just have to let people or not let people do widescreen. I mean, 16:9 is widescreen. We just won't let people do the ridiculously absurd widescreen. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Okay. We can see what happens. It doesn't even let me. I mean, I would have to make my own custom one, which I guess I could just do like free aspect and then yeah, so that will definitely ruin it. We've got a little bit of leeway there, but lots of things will be ruined if people are playing at like a crazy aspect ratio. So we'll need to make sure that doesn't happen. All right. The candles. So let's go ahead and exit out of play mode and see if we can make those candles. We have also got some like bunting in the top left and top right. Go into our prefab here. And we do have some giant candles. I don't know if they're gonna fit. We've got a giant candle material. I don't know if they're gonna fit this particular situation. Let's see. So I'm gonna add a just add like an upright quad here. Actually, we'll just go with a quad. Okay, create 3D objects quad. And where is that? All right. Put that in here. And then we'll put our candle material onto it. And we'll just sort of scale it up a little. See if we can just stick that in there, see how that looks. So let's give that a save. Back up and just turn on that prefab so we can see in game mode how the composition is looking. It just doesn't have the texel density. Looking at concept. So they're really a different kind of candle. I mean, this candle looks absurd. Looks like just like a scaled up massive candle. Every single thing, man. Can't have any freebies. Everything has to be perfectly created. It really messes with the scale of things, I think. I'm wondering, like, I guess these candles do it to a certain extent too, but for whatever reason, they just don't quite mess with the scale as much. Let me see if I have bunting on a separate. Do seem to have bunting. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, great. At least we have bunting. That's great. Of course, it's going to require a very different material. So I'm going to create a new material, call it pumpkin bunting, or I guess I'll call it apple toss bunting. For anyone new to the stream, we are working on a mini game that goes in the Pumpkin Moon Festival. And it's an apple toss mini game, which is kind of like cornhole, but where there's different holes and different scores. And we're just working on making it not look absolutely offensive to the peepers, which is kind of how it looks right now. I mean, it's getting there, but it still looks a little bit offensive. My peepers, anyway. So just trying to massage this thing, add some details. What have we got in this little rough concept? So we just have orange bunting straight up. So I'm gonna desaturate the texture and let's just give ourselves the orange bunting. It's kind of actually more saturated and in the red direction. So push it in the red direction and make it more saturated and bright. And then stick that in there. See how that looks. Okay. Save. Cool. That works. We need it a little bit smaller. See if we can just sneak it in there. Yeah, cool. That does make a difference. Does make a difference. And remember, the lighting is completely borked. When we're previewing it right here, that is not how the game looks. That pumpkin background is incredibly bright and orange. Is not how it looks in the game. It still looks pretty bad though. It's not that far off. Seems like we've got a little bit, like we can see behind the pumpkin a little bit. So in order to not have that, I'm just gonna make sure that the pumpkin is really tall. And I'm gonna grab each side and I'm going to just extrude it out. And then I'm gonna re-unwrap this thing. Unwrap. Okay, we need a little bit more textile density there. Seems like we need just a little bit more textile density there. Okay. Where the ground intersects is really quite ugly. I wish we could get a blend going. I don't really know what the solution is. It's like we definitely want that to be less obvious. We could try like a decal. Let's do this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add a handy dandy. Well, first of all, this bunting probably has collision on it just because quads come with collision. Oh no, but we use the bunting prefab. Well, let's not do that. Let's unpack that. Unpack prefab. Grab these two things and let's rename them something sensible like bunting. And delete their prefab containers. And then I'm going to add, well, this is just a quad already, so that's fine. Let's stick that on the ground. And we're gonna call that like seam cover. And we're gonna make a new material. We'll start with, no, not covered catwalk. Blend, something about a blend. Bluff soiled blend, I don't know, dirt decal. Start with that. Okay, let's grab that. And let's call this like pumpkin apple. It's a very specific material. It'll have a very specific name. Apple toss pumpkin seam blend. Okay. And then we want, what kind of shader do we want? Grab that. And let's take a look at that dirt. Let's blend surface. That is what we want. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate. Actually, let's revert that material. I don't know why I checked it out. We don't actually want that material. Revert it. Revert it. You fool. Revert it. Go. Go. Oh, this UI over here. My bad. Okay, so it's reverting that, taking its sweet time. We are using the default Unity UI. Okay, let's call this pumpkin. Didn't I already make a new material? I did. I feel like I did. Cool. My brain is small. Here it is. Seam. Here it is. Yep, we did make a new material. And we want it to be blend surface, just like that. Cool. Okay, so we're using the right material. And I think what I want is like just a gradient circle, a radial gradient will do. And then I'm just going to grab the value of that pumpkin and check that out. It's already going to work. I can tell it's going to work. And what I'm going to do, first of all, we don't want this thing casting shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and can I make it not cast shadows? Doesn't seem like it. Here we go. Off. Stick that in there. And just float it. Just float it over the seam. Give it a save. And now, if I look, see, we have a much less harsh seam. And if I do like a darker value, it just sort of obfuscates that super nasty, like very CG looking seam. Very like old school CG look to it. Very low poly look. So I'm just gonna duplicate it and just sort of move them along here, covering the seam wherever necessary. Just floating it. And it's okay if there's a little bit left, because if there's a little bit left, it's still better than it was, which was just a super gnarly high contrast area that is just distracting the eyeball. Just covering it up with my hands by hand. Tedious, but worth it. Worth it. Gotta know what battles to pick. And let me tell you, this is one of the most important battles. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea. But I know it looks really ugly and it bothers me, so. And, you know, our eyeballs have served us well so far. Seems like people sort of care about our games, at least when they first see them, because they look like somebody spent a lot of time on them. Okay, give that a save. So that we see that it's covering up that seam. It's not quite perfect. Like, it seems like they're all a little bit somehow a little bit high. Let me go into global and just move them all down. And then maybe move. They're, tell you, having a heck of a time selecting them. Now let's move them on the local, just over and float them. We can float them pretty far away from the wall because of the perspective not being able to change. Gotta float them a little bit further. Float them a little bit further here. We're gonna need one more right here. One interesting thing about YouTube, if you've never streamed on YouTube, is it tells me when some viewers are watching ads, which is kind of distracting. Like, I don't care. Just like when I see the little thing, it's like, well, you have an ad running. I mean, I guess it could be helpful for some people, but when it notifies me there's an ad running, I'm like, okay, well, should I like wait? Should I wait for that to be done? One interesting thing about streaming as well is that, as far as I can tell, it might tell me when I get a new subscriber from the stream, but I don't think it does. That's kind of interesting. Noam Raz asks, do you use shaders for UI? For what I saw, Unity didn't support this up until some more latest versions. For me, it was hell. I've always been able to use shaders, custom shaders for Unity UI. Maybe it doesn't support certain features, but I've always been able to use a custom material on any UI element. Like if I grab, you know, here's a UI canvas right here, grab fog, and here's the little material slot, and you can put whatever material you want in there. It's possible it doesn't pass all of the important bits to the shader program, but I've been able to do some stuff with it. But mostly we're just using the default UI shader, which is what you get when you have none in the slot. So we still have some yucky seam business going on. You know, I wonder if I should like. There's another way to do this other than covering it. I could actually model something. I wonder if that would be easier. Probably. Maybe let's model something. So I just have to figure out exactly where that thing is, which shouldn't be too hard. I'm just going to duplicate off and then push in just a touch, and then partition that out into a separate object. And then we're going to create a cut, and then we're going to delete all the bottom faces. Actually, you know, if I go ahead back into Unity, I can see, oh, it is pretty much at the bottom, like pretty close to the bottom. Probably like right there. Let me go ahead and delete that edge loop. And then I'm just going to knock out these bottom faces. I know. The face kind of ruins it, huh? I don't even know if I should have the face. I feel like, you know, some people, they're meant for radio. They're not meant. Some people are like more expressive with their face. Like you see their face and you hear the same voice that you've been hearing, but they like, you know, they have more expression with their face, and it sort of adds to the expressiveness. But I've noticed I'm kind of the opposite, where I don't really do anything with my face, so it just kind of creates like dead. It makes me sound more deadpan than I typically sound without the face. So I don't know. I'm trying the camera thing for now. I might get rid of it. I know typically, you know, camera is supposed to increase engagement, but you know, every stream different, so not sure if that's the case for me. The only YouTube video I have with my face in it is our worst performing video by an extremely wide margin. And the topic that it was about, I thought would be kind of a hot topic. It was about going full-time indie. I thought that was kind of a hot topic with my audience, but got almost no views, which was really interesting. Okay, Tuckmuck likes the camera. Yep, face for radio. When you have an image in your head that it doesn't fit. Oh, you're right. I know the feeling. Okay. I'm going to unwrap one of these. And then I'm going to square it up. We've got to use this material that we made. And I'm going to make a new material and give it that exact name, and it should link it up automatically because my exporter is magical. Oh, we didn't square it up well. We gotta square it up better than that. Fermi says, I like that video. That's good. Well, I'm glad you found some use in it. Well, thank you, Vaughn. It's nice of you to say. All right. I'm gonna make sure that these UVs cover up the entire area here, top to bottom. I'm gonna scale it. I'm gonna squish it really, really tight. Oops. Catch up with chat here. Okay. Lem says, wanted to thank you for making eShade. You're too kind. You're too kind. All right, rock on. Hey, thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate that. Always is great to hear. It never gets old. Never gets old hearing it. Josh says, which I guess I've gone, not so much by choice, okay, by many rejections. I gotcha. Tough industry. It's a tough industry. It is really hard. Thanks, Noam. I appreciate that. Glad you liked the quest video. Glad you dig the new game. Degan. Yeah, you know, eShade 2, I don't actually know what people want with eShade 2, because there are some people who I think literally want to go back to eShade. Like they want to go back to the island of eShade and do something. There are some people who really like painting. Like they love the like screenshot painting system and they want to do more quests with that. Then there are some people who are like really want an eShade 2, but when you ask them what is it that you want about eShade 2, they just like the format of the game, and it's like, well, that doesn't necessarily have to be eShade 2, right? And then there are some people who just like specifically the art style and the 3D graphics, and they like first-person games. So everyone likes eShade for different, very, 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 very different reasons. Like I think maybe even more than most games. It seems like eShade has very broad things that people like about it. So yeah, I don't actually know the consensus on what people really want from an eShade 2, but I don't really have any desire to make another game. I don't have any desire to make a game with the baggage of eShade's world necessary. Now with guns, all right. Yeah, I mean, Josh says that they picked the worst time to graduate. It's definitely tough. Definitely tough. Yeah, definitely tough right now. Morrow says. Big Brain says, I wish it wasn't as expensive to craft and that painting system was more developed. Yeah, I don't know what we thought a lot about what we could do with the painting system, but in the end we decided that it's not what the game was about, so it was just like bogging down the other things that were actually special about eShade. One of the problems I think with having a really unique mechanic sometimes, especially when it's not really the selling point of your game. Like eShade's an adventure game, that's what it is, and that's what it's good at. But then the painting gimmick on top of it, it works really well, but you know, some people come expecting more painting, I guess, which is not really what it is. That's kind of why I made that gameplay summary video. Like, we put out another trailer a couple weeks ago, 5 years after the game had released. I just felt like Eastshade was not doing a good job of explaining itself in the store page of what it actually was. So I thought that if I could just tell people with my voice in a few minutes, just point blank what the game was, then I felt like it could clarify some things. Okay, so what I've done is I've created this little like shadow card, and now we can delete, I think we can delete all these seam covers. There we go. And let's see, how does that look from the camera's perspective? I'm gonna give that a save. Make Eastshade, but make it double. Would be hard. I mean, Songs of Glimmerwick is way bigger than Eastshade. It is way bigger. It's bigger in terms of NPCs and NPC counts, bigger in terms of quest counts, bigger in terms of word counts, bigger in terms of mechanical depth and breadth. It's bigger in every way. Like Eastshade, I've often told people half of Eastshade's development budget went into only optimization, nothing else. Not making quests, not making pretty art, not polishing, not anything other than just getting it to run at frame. And even then it's the most complained about thing in Eastshade. People say it's not optimized, forgot to optimize. Oops, lazy dev, forgot to optimize. Very bad optimization. Hear that over and over and over and over again. You just can't win. You just can't win when making a 3D game. It's just not, you're just never going to be able to live up to people's expectations there when you're making a high fidelity 3D game, not just a 3D game, a high fidelity 3D game, and specifically a free camera game, a game where you can control the camera and look anywhere. Those are the hardest games to optimize by like a factor of 20. Like, they're so much harder to optimize. And it's just a losing battle. Just a battle I don't really want to fight anymore, because I want to make games. Like, I don't want to, you know, I enjoy the battle of optimization. Like, it's a fun technical problem to solve, and I enjoy trying different things and trying to get the game to run better. But when it's a game that cannot be won, when no matter what you do, people will never be impressed, they'll always feel like you did a bad job, that sucks the fun out. Tukmok asks if my interview with Thomas Brush impacted me wanting to update the trailer. I don't think so. Maybe a little bit. But I've been wanting to explain the game better for a very long time. It definitely wasn't like the main thing or anything. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha, Moro. I'm just trying to get these things on the ground, floating on the ground. Some of that still is, I guess this whole entire thing is not flat. Maybe that's an issue. Yeah, we need to change that to 90. And then let's just move that up. Something like that. Save that, give it a peek. I definitely agree with that, Vaughn. Yeah, it's people know the word, that's for sure. I mean, I guess to a certain extent they do understand it. They understand that it makes the frame rate higher, but they act as if optimization is a flag that is like, it's like a binary thing. Like, is your game optimized or is it not optimized? They don't really understand that it's like, well, you know, $100 million can get your game to run at this frame rate, and $5 million can get your game to run at this frame rate, and that it's just this never-ending spectrum for how how optimized it can be. And, you know, Eastshade's production budget was under $1 million. So it's never going to perform like, you know, a game that costs $100 million to make. And even games that cost $100 million to make, you go to the forums and you see tons of people complaining about optimization. Like, it's such a difficult thing to get right to the point where people are satisfied with it. So one of the things we did with Eastshade is we simply, basically we made I figured that people would want, you know, highest settings for people who have just insanely good computers. But what started happening was that people expect, even with their like not that great computer, like let's say they have like a solid gaming rig, but it's not like the most insane thing ever. They want to click on highest. And when they click on highest and they're getting like, you know, 30 frames a second or something, they're like, what's wrong with this game? They forgot to optimize. I should be able to click on highest because there's this other game that I can click on highest on. So what we did was we made highest high and we just removed highest. But like when you click on highest, it's what high used to do. And we basically lowered all the graphic settings of all the settings. And the only way to get them is to actually use an INI file. So you have to like kind of, you know, mod the game in a sense to get it to perform better. Because I was just so sick of people clicking on highest and being like, oh, it's not performing well. It's like, well, what if it's not performing well on highest, why don't you just click on high? Like if you don't want 30 FPS, then lower the settings until you're getting what you want. That's right, Mitzi. More teraflops in their Texels. Has Texels made it to the gamer public? I feel like that'll be the day when they start throwing around that word. Good to hear, Lemx. Frame rate queens. Noam asks, how do you combine showing your progress while not revealing too much of the game? My philosophy is that no matter how much you show of the game, like almost nobody will see it. It's kind of insane. Many people who have played Eastshade have never seen the trailer, or at least don't remember the trailer. Like, I assume many people in the viewers right now have probably played Eastshade. How many of you know what the Eastshade trailer was? How many of you can think about what it showed? Like, most people either watched it way before they even had any idea of what the game was and like aren't connecting. You know, it's not like going into your memory logs. It's just sort of like this tiny little thing that gets your feet wet and like, oh, what's that? You're not even like remembering what you're seeing. Or people have never seen the trailer, period. Like they just literally have never seen the trailer. They just saw either a Let's Play of it or their friends told them about it. And then they, you know, they typed it into Steam and they're like, yep, this is the game. Yeah, okay, Painter. And then they would just buy it. They don't watch the trailer, or they just kind of scrub around the trailer. So even the trailer, right, which is the thing that more people will see than anything, you know, you can't even spoil anything in the trailer because almost nobody will watch it, or at least people who do watch it won't remember it. And then you're talking about like a devlog or something like that. I mean, probably less than 2% of the people that actually end up playing your game will see your devlogs. So I don't worry about spoiling stuff. I figure if you don't want anything in the game spoiled, you just won't watch the devlogs. And, you know, you'll just wait for the game to come out. And for those of you who maybe like the devlogs, but also are excited about the game and don't want anything spoiled, that's kind of a tough one. I don't know how to, because the devlogs are devlogs, right? We're showing everything. We're showing like, this is what we're working on. This is what we think about when we work on it. This was our, you know, our pipeline for making it and all that stuff. So it's really hard to worry about spoilers. I feel like if we worried about spoilers, we wouldn't be able to show anything. So I just kind of show it all and ruin it all for it. Good question, though. Something we've thought about a lot. There you go. Yeah, an optimization box that just makes the game look terrible. Saw the trailer in the store. Okay, rock on, rock on. All right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at what we've got. I've been gabbing over here. I've been gabbing. AC. I'm gonna pop in and try out the apple toss. For anyone new to the stream, we are working on a mini game that goes in the fall festival. And it's where you throw apples, kind of like cornhole. Turn off the mute audio. Okay, so looking much better now, I think. The background is looking better. With that blended line, it looks better. Let's go ahead and maybe try, we gotta try to do something with the giant candles. These buntings are a little bit low texel density. I might maybe like shrink them down just because they're a little bit blurry looking. Okay, but other than that, I'm gonna put some decals on this board here. 58 viewers right now, which is more than I've gotten on Twitch in like the last 6 months. But I don't know, maybe Twitch is better for finding new people. Not sure. I just don't know. Okay, so going into the apple toss minigame, I said I wanted to shrink those buntings a little bit. I'm just gonna scale them down just a tiny bit, just to increase their texel density. And then I'm gonna scoot them a little bit more into the corner. All right, and then I wanna find some way to make these candles. I think I'm just gonna have to end up, I don't think we're gonna find a candle that really works for this. I'll try every candle we have. We've got a lot of candles in this game. All right, folks, let me adjust this thing over here. Now viewers went down to 24. Very, very volatile. I don't really know why it's so volatile. Hey, rock on, MGB. Thank you for the support, and I'm glad they were able to help you relax. Feels like you've played it just by watching. Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. That's interesting. Okay, so we've got a couple different candles. Let's try maybe going, yeah, let's like library candle. Okay, that clearly is not going to work. Lone candle. These candles, they're so low resolution. I don't think we're going to be able to get away with them. That's not what we want. The library candle is higher resolution, but it's not the right kind of candle. That candle's definitely way too low fidelity. Yeah. I don't know, it seems like our only option is maybe to make a bunch of little tiny candles that kind of go on the floor here. I'm gonna save that. Just gonna see how they look real quick. I'm gonna turn that on. You know, I think that looks better. Instead of having the big candles, I think that having little tiny candles on the floor, it helps people understand the scale better. And we already have the asset for it, which is always a bonus. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab 278. We're just gonna grab every candle. Nope, that's a library candle, you nincompoop. Lone candle 1. Oh, that one is actually a higher resolution. No, is it? Am I full of it a little bit? Okay. It's going to put all these candles around on the ground. So 3, 4, 5, 6, Oh, we already have 6, which is 7, then 8 is the last one. Okay. And then I'm going to grab all of these candles. And I'm going to put, so there's furniture 1, Atlas. I guess I'll call this like apple toss. Furniture 1, candles. And we'll stick that in. Apple toss, furniture 1, candles. And I'm just going to colorize these things. So let's make it that sort of dark red that we saw in Jacqueline's little concept here. Very dark red. Something like that. Yeah, and then I'm going to try to put little flames on them. So let's go candle flame. Now we have a candle flame. There's a candle flame material. Maybe just flame. Fire flame? Nope, that's not what we want. Thought it was a candle flame. Here, candle flame. Okay, so I'm gonna just stick that. This part is pretty annoying. We have 8 candles. I'm gonna create 8 flames. And I'm gonna stick each flame as a child. We don't have prefabs for these things because we sort of use them in all different contexts. I'm gonna stick a flame as a child of each candle. And then I'm gonna grab each flame and I'm gonna zero out its position. Thanks for dropping by, Moro. And then I'm gonna push each just on the local. I'm gonna move them. There we go. I'll need to adjust each one to the height of the candle because all the candles are different heights and they're all in slightly different positions as well, but it should just take a second here. That one is way high. Rock on T4, thanks for dropping by the stream. Okay. Just adjusting these candle flame positions. Be at the top of each candle. Okay. And now I just need to move around the candles. So let's go ahead and give that a save. And just look through. And just try to place each candle in sort of a sane location. The right side is actually looking pretty good. Another one over here, just basically covering the floor in these candles. All right, let's see. Go. Okay, how's that look? I just want to see how the candles look. Backing up. And let's run in and see. Turn off our Apple Toss prefab and just pop into play mode. Okay, so those flames are absolutely massive, but other than that, they They work pretty well. Yeah, that's going to work really well. Some of them need to be moved forward a little bit, and they definitely all need to be scaled down. Okay, so I'll do that next. But for the moment, I'm going to BRB. I'm just going to go grab some water. Okay. See here. All right. So we need to scale down those little candle flames. So going back into our prefab, got these little flames, and I'm going to grab them all and just push them all forward because it seemed like sometimes they were behind the candle, which is not what we want. Just push them forward a little bit. Oh, it seems like we're actually missing a lot of them. So let's, oh, you know, these ones might not be, no, they're in the right position. They're in the right position. Okay, let's grab all these little flames and just push them all forward. And they all have different scales, which is kind of interesting to me. I don't know why that's the case. Why are they all different scales? They're all seemingly, well, just totally different scales, which is weird. Let's put them all at like 0.7, 0.7, 0.7. Actually 1, you would think 1. 1 would be normal, right? Go with 1. See how that looks. I'm gonna give that a save. And should I put more? Should I put more flames? I think kind of hard to see what I'm doing. I'm gonna turn off the gizmos. And now I can much more easily see where all of our candles are. And I think, yeah, maybe just a few more candles. Just even going around the back, getting completely crazy with it. Like, what about around the front? Seems like that would maybe look cool. Put a few candles like around the bottom as well. This seems like a massive fire hazard, right? Cannot be safe to put this many candles inside of a contained space made out of vegetable. All right. Put a few more of the little candles down near the bottom. Got the little candles. Hi, Auntie, welcome. Asks if I've ever played Babdi. No, I don't think I have. Give that a save and see how that's looking. I want to see what it looks like with tons of candles. The flames are just looking absolutely massive. And some of the candles are a little bit obscenely huge as well. I don't really understand why. Are they not like... It might be that the candles are not scaled to their local. Let's check out what's going on in the prefab. So it does say the simulation space is local and the delta time is scaled. So in theory, we should be able to scale these. No, see, they're not scaling candle flame. Huh. So it appears that scaling the prefab doesn't make a lick of difference. But if I set the thing to probably like hierarchy, then it starts to scale down. And I imagine now if I scale its root, yeah, there we go. Okay, so they all need to be set to hierarchy. Okay, so let's go in here. And some of these were just really, really, really big, like that one. I don't know, all the other ones were okay. Anyhow, we need to grab all of the candle flames. Well, really, yeah, all the particles. It's gonna take a long time. Why don't I just, no. Like, I don't want to change the prefab because it's set up that way for a reason. I could version off the prefab, but I don't know. By the time I do that, I could have just selected them all. Maybe not, actually. There's kind of crap ton here. Well, I'm not far off now. Just 3 more. Okay. And oof, look at that. That's not good. Oh, well, no, it should be okay. And then we just want to change this from local to, oh, local is fine. We need to change this one to hierarchy, scaling mode. Okay. And then we should be able to just grab all the candle flames. And scale them down to maybe like 0.7. Save the prefab and then jump right into play mode. See how that feeling. Okay, that's a better size. Does seem like a fire hazard. We might want a few more in the foreground here. Oh, I saw the apple fall. If I can get one. There we go. Yeah, you can see the apple pop through right there, so we're gonna need to fix that. Okay. What else? Just a few more in the foreground, and then maybe it might be kind of nice to cap these off. And then grab those and maybe just give them sort of like a darker vertex color. Also, maybe we should be extruding this up a little bit. Well, we'll move this down and then just extrude up like that. And we want everything but these, and then follow active quads on one of these. Follow active quads. And then we can grab this line of faces and just set it to be dark. Like really dark, like a lot darker than that. Almost like a drop shadow. I think that maybe all of this can be a little darker as well, or at least vertex paint it. So I'm gonna go into like multiply. And I just want to select the parts that I want to vertex paint on. And now let's just sort of darken these spots, the spots next to the boards. Maybe we'll darken right here as well. And maybe we'll darken a little bit at the bottom. Okay, something like that. We might take the bottom, oops, the bottom of this and, well, let's correct for UVs here. Come on, correct UVs, and then just grab this little bit right here and maybe just give it a slightly darker tone. And I wonder if we should take like, make a little bevel, like maybe right here. Actually, we could just put 2 edge loops and then grab those rings. And I wonder if we can put them on something really bright that just gives them a little bit more pop. Hello, Aster. Welcome. Rock on. Hey, I'm glad you're able to drop by the stream. And thanks for popping in. Okay, so I'm going to put these right on a brighter piece of wood grain. Look at that. I think that that works well. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this other side. I think that'll just give a little bit more pop to this. For some reason, the edge loop just kind of terminated right there, which I'm not too happy about. But I think I can just cut it manually there. Vicky Cream asks, how did you get your environment artist job at, I think you're talking about Sucker Punch, which is often a face punch. When you still worked there, did you go to school for 3D or any game engines? So I did. I was really young when I first got into the games industry, and the first place I got a job was actually at a studio called ArenaNet, who makes a popular MMO called Guild Wars, and I got that job back in 2009 or 2010, and here, let me grab these UVs right here. And I got that job. I knew I wanted to be a 3D artist, so I was working on my 3D stuff. I was working on my portfolio. I found this local trade school called Future Poly. I'm actually wearing the shirt. A little out of focus. You can see I'm wearing this Future Poly shirt. And that school, unfortunately, is closed down, but at the time, it was a pretty cool little trade school that all the teachers there were, most of them worked at ArenaNet in the industry, and the school is not accredited, which was a little bit unusual compared to most of the other schools in the area. You know, there were actual like 4-year colleges where you get a degree. This place wasn't about getting a degree. It was literally just about teaching you, you know, 3D art as it pertains to the games industry. And I ended up landing an internship at ArenaNet through an art test that one of the teachers threw out to the class. And that's how I started in the industry. I also had just a really, really, really strong portfolio. Like, I got pretty good at 3D pretty fast, and I was kind of insane, like kind of psychotic about it. I was working like probably 12 hours a day on it. It was just my thing. I was just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. Do or die. Like, I'm going to die. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen, or I'm going to die trying. And I had this like crazy, like, you know, young person sort of like, I felt like I wasn't very good at school. I wasn't very good at, you know, sports. I didn't really have anything going for me. And that's what I decided that I wanted to do with my life. So I put a lot of pressure on myself. And then I ended up working in 3D art in AAA games for a few years before I ended up quitting Sucker Punch. I don't remember the year, 2014 or something. Anyhow, sorry, long story. MGB says, I had no idea there was so much physical geometry in Glimmerwick. There is a lot of physical geometry in Glimmerwick, especially with this game, since you kind of throw an apple. And this is actually kind of a weird one because we didn't know what is it going to be like to actually have a physics game in like an illustrated world. It's a little weird and like, I don't know. You know, it's okay. But we were just trying to think of mini games, and we thought, well, if we did like a cornhole thing, we could do it in full physics, and full physics is usually pretty fun. So we just prototyped it, and we thought it doesn't look that weird, so we thought we could go with it. But there is quite a bit of geometry in Glimmerwick. We have a really strange mixed art pipeline. Rock on Aster loved Guild Wars. Favorite PS2 game. Is that to me or is that to the chat? I don't think I had a big PS2 era. Let me go ahead and export this and see what that line looks like. That line is so important. It makes a huge difference in my opinion. So much so that I want to put one on every single one of these. Every single one I'm going to put a line on. I'm going to grab them. Vista Realms, welcome to the chat. Asks, which art styles sell better for indie games? Does it matter, or is execution the main thing that matters? How did you decide to choose this art style over the last? So for Glimmerwick, Glimmerwick is my wife Jacqueline's baby, and Jacqueline has her own art style. Let me give a little bit more thickness to this little corner here. So we didn't like engineer an art style. We weren't like, okay, we're going to pick an art style that sells well. We've never done that. Like Eastshade was my baby. Eastshade was just, I like sort of more realistic looking, like surreal, sort of whimsical cottagecore cheeseball fantasy worlds. That's just the cut of my jib. I like weird, like otherworldly architecture, like round architecture and rounded windows and all kinds of stuff like that. I also like Middle Eastern architecture, who also has like round elements to it, particularly in the rooftops and things. And that's just the stuff I like. I don't know how well it sells particularly. It's really hard to get that granular about what sells and what doesn't. In general, though, I think that realistic graphics on Steam sell much, much, much better than most stylized graphics. That being said, bomb diggity art style is a bomb diggity art style, and that's going to sell for the most part. If you've got an art style that looks awesome in the traditional sense, right? Like it fills people with awe. When they see it, they're like, that is remarkable. What is that? That looks so amazing. I think that that's really what's important. I don't think that there's like a cheap kind of art style that is going to be like, oh yeah, people love this. Everyone likes this art style. You should do that one. So for us, we just try to blow people away. We just try to knock people's socks off and make the most beautiful thing that we can possibly make, whatever art style that is. And that's how we do it. We don't do any like marketing, like market analysis on art style. I don't even know my favorite. I can't even remember what. I don't tend to remember what consoles, like what games go to what consoles. Probably Final Fantasy IX, I think, was the last Final Fantasy before PlayStation 1, but Final Fantasy IX is a favorite of mine. So I'll go with Final Fantasy IX, even if I think that's technically a PlayStation 1 game. Sticky Cream says, I'm interested on getting a job making maps environments somewhere in AA or AAA. Do you think going to a CG school can be worth it? I have CG Spectrum in mind. CG Spectrum is a CG school. I personally, right now, and it's been this way for a long time, I don't think an accredited school for game art is worth it. So if you're going to a school that gives you a degree, it tends to be the ones that give you degrees are the more expensive ones. Those ones are not worth it. It's almost the opposite. Like if you go to an unaccredited school, the school that is just concerned with teaching you the skills, then that can be worth it. It depends on the school. But across the board, I've never seen an accredited school that actually A, has teachers who know what they're talking about, or B, like teach you the skills you need to learn. Getting a job in game art is very, very, very simple. It's hard, but it's simple. All that matters is your portfolio. All that matters is your portfolio. Not you got 3 to 5 portfolio pieces. You shouldn't really have more than that. Just take your absolute best stuff, your craziest bangers. That should be all that's in your portfolio. And that's the only thing you need to focus on. So if you think going to an accredited school is going to help you make better portfolio pieces, then maybe it can work. But for the most part, I just think figuring out what portfolio piece you want to make and how to make it the most insane, mind-blowing, incredible thing that anyone has ever seen. That's really the sort of like, that's the standard you want to have. That's the way you want to approach it. Like, this is going to be the best effing piece of 3D that the world has ever seen. You're probably not going to get there, but shoot for the stars, land at the moon sort of thing. And I think that that's the best way to do it. And you just kind of toil away on that one piece and do whatever it is you need to do and look at lots of reference. And if the reference looks better than your piece, figure out why, figure out exactly what little things need to be nailed in order to make it look like your reference, and just keep going until it's the most bonkers bananas thing that anyone has ever seen. And when they see it, their jaws drop and their minds are blown. That's the kind of portfolio piece that is going to get you a job. Environment art is a great path, by the way. Environment art is one of the easiest. We need more environment artists than any other kind of art when it comes to making video games, because it's just very time consuming and very expensive. So it's a great path to choose. Character art is a much harder road. Let me catch up a chat here. Okay. Mr. Realm says, good news, thanks. I'm solo indie dev using Unreal realistic style, but is there a danger that customers expect too much from me? Customers expect a lot. Like, you're worried that if you go with a 3D style that you're going to be held to this high standard. I don't think you can change the standard that people are going to expect of you based on your art style. Like, it's not like if you go for like a cheaper looking 2D art style that people are going to be like, oh, well, it's a cheaper looking 2D art style, so we don't mind if it like doesn't look that polished or whatever. People's standards are going to be high no matter what style you choose. So I don't think you run that risk. If it looks like bad 3D, it looks like bad 3D, and it doesn't particularly matter what art style you chose. Now, if you're much better at a certain art style than another, then that's something to consider. Like, if you're an amazing pixel artist, but you're not such a good 3D artist, and then you try to make a 3D game and it looks like, bad 3D art, then that's going to be not as good as if you made a pixel art game and you were an amazing pixel artist. So I think you just have to make it amazing looking no matter what the art style is, but it really has to look spectacular. At least that's the most reliable path to selling video games. It needs to look bananas, like like it was made by a professional studio. That's the easiest way. Well, it's not easy, but it's the most reliable way to sell games, to look like you belong, in the top sellers. I just watched your eShade video and saw that you were, oh, rock on. Okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for dropping by the stream. Appreciate you dropping by. Hey, and thanks so much for the kind words. I'm glad you dug the video. Mr. Realm says it's important to manage expectations, unlike that online indie zombie game that was the most wishlisted and got very bad reviews. It was impressive for a small team, but it was way overhyped. Which indie zombie game are you talking about? I can think of a few indie zombie games. You gotta be careful with there's two kind of stories. There's the consumer story, and then there's like the business side story. And sometimes the consumer story is kind of not a, how should I say? It's not really a grounded story in reality. Like, there's this, like No Man's Sky, for instance, and to a lot of gamers, this is a failed game, right? The expectations were, way too high, and the game didn't live up to those expectations. But to everyone involved in the creation of the game, the developers, the publisher, right? Every single person on that side, they didn't see a failure. That game made massive amounts of money. So it wasn't overhyped. It was perfectly hyped. And the fact that, it wasn't what people expected, it doesn't really matter, right? People were incredibly excited about the game, and lots of people bought it, and the game was what it was. So if you're, you know, trying to make money in this industry, then the sort of perception of what happened doesn't really matter compared to what actually happened. And I don't know what game you're talking about, but it sounds like it made a lot of money. So I wouldn't worry about overhyping your game, and I wouldn't worry about player expectations. Like, you've got people like Peter Molyneux who've basically made a career out of overhyping games. But you know, it makes people care about the games, and it's one thing if you're, you know, lying about what the game is, but I don't think that we should necessarily. I mean, I don't fault Peter Molyneux for hyping the crap out of his games. Nor do I fault. I'm really rambling here, by the way. This is not any prompted by any particular question or comment. I'm just making shit up. I should probably stop. I'll stop. I'll shut up. Work. Get to work. Okay, so what I'm doing now, in case anyone is wondering what I'm doing, I'm going around and cutting these little support loops on all the corners of this game board, and I'm taking these little slivers of faces, and I'm UVing them to a bright pixel on the texture. And the reason I'm doing that is so that we get this lovely little like line at the corner, which almost acts as if like a line of wear. So now let me export that and see how it looks. Another thing that I might want to do is I might want to add like a noise modifier. I don't know. Might be too sloppy. Maybe I'll just leave it as it is. I fault Molyneux for many things. I can never, like, I guess because the public has a very different perception of game developers than I do. I understand what it is to be a developer, and I understand what it is to be excited about your own game. And when a game developer is talking about their game, don't take it as like a business promise. Don't take it as like, this is a contract. They're telling you, you know, how the game is going to be. This is an artist that is super pumped about their creation, and they're super excited about all these ideas that are going through their head. Now, you can get excited about those ideas with them, and just understand that they're, you know, dreaming about what they're going to make and kind of meet them at their level. Or you can like hear everything they say as like a contractual promise that is what you're going to get when you're paying. That you leave that to journalists and maybe Let's Players and reviewers and stuff. When you actually want to know about a game, you know, leave it to the media and the press and your you know, the fellow players in the gaming community to figure out what's actually in the game. But when game developers talk about their game, let them shoot the shit, man. I say don't get all like, because otherwise what happens? You just get game developers that don't want to say anything about their games, because God forbid, you know, we show something that doesn't end up being in the game and then people get all upset about it. Like, that's not, I think, what we want from our game developers. We want to hear them dream about the game and what they're excited about. At least I do. That's my opinion on it. But I'm a game developer, so I have a very colored perspective, very biased perspective, I guess we could say. Vista Realms talks about, didn't Molyneux get in trouble when he said Kickstarter forced him to lie? This I don't know anything about, so that sounds like something different. So I don't know what that's all about. I was just mostly thinking of like that time when he was talking about Fable and how you could grow a tree or whatever. Thicky Cream says, in order to get a job making maps, environments, what skill do you think I should focus on learning? Currently have I have a few made in Unreal Engine 5, but I don't know any 3D modeling tools. Okay, I see. So you want to be a level designer, not an environment artist. Gotcha. I actually have no idea how to become a level designer. I don't have any idea how anyone gets into any of the design fields, but I know exactly how to get a job as an environment artist. But it sounds like you want to go into more of the design side. So I'm sorry, I don't think I have any good advice for that. I don't want to bullshit you and make stuff up. Aster says, as a programmer, it's crazy to me to watch you do these individually. Environment artists have deep magics. the day before. Oh, okay, gotcha. Ah, okay, gotcha. Why did it get taken off Steam, I wonder? I totally missed that whole story. I'm off in La La Land here, I guess. I'm going to export this and we're going to see those little lines that we just put. Look at that. I think that makes a huge difference. But what I really want to do now, first of all, I want to make this thing, I want to remove its mirror modifier. And then we want to put some cool decals on it. I've got some ideas for, here's a pumpkin. I want sort of this kind of thing, like these cool decals, maybe, I don't know, like a moon or a pumpkin or something. I also think this whole thing is really saturated. So let's go into the model and I'm going to apply this mirror modifier and then we're going to re-unwrap this thing. So let's go follow active quads. Oops, why is it not letting me? No active quad. Okay, gotcha. Here we go. Follow active quads. All right, there we go. So now we've got the whole thing is contiguous. It's not mirrored, and we're going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to unwrap that. Cool. Yeah, that looks much better, and I think it looks better when it goes horizontally as well, vertically. Cool. Okay, so the other thing I'd like to do is maybe put like a put a line here and then grab this little bit and maybe just put like a lighter vertex color. I would actually love it if I could get an even brighter vertex color. Maybe I'll just grab this blue and just stick it on like a really bright piece of the plain wood here, just to give that little bit of worn edge. Yeah, I think that's better. I think that looks much better. I would also like if it had a little wobble to it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that. I'm just going to put a bunch of cuts in it and see if I can maybe just grab a vert or two and just push it around a little bit. Just give it a little wobble so that it doesn't look so like laser beamy, like so straight. Something like that. See how that looks. Cool. That, I feel like that looks a lot better. Thicky Dream asks, would an environment artist be someone who makes the meshes? Yes, environment artists definitely make meshes, but they also like do work in the engine, like set decoration, sometimes it's called, where you're just like filling in the environment, you know, placing props, also figuring out what needs to be created, like to make the scene look good, modeling buildings, you know, cutting windows, modeling windows and doors, just everything. But it's a lot of modeling and texturing. So this is the, you know, an artist side. And when we think of someone who doesn't model, first of all, not every studio even has that role. Like there are a lot of studios that they have designers and they have environment artists, and the environment artists do basically all of the like map related creation. And that comes with modeling as well. But the level designer is a specific job, which is like you're placing things and you're, you know, you're building out maps with props that other people have made, but you're not actually making any props. And yeah, typically we call that a level designer. Some people call it a mapper, but usually studios that call it a mapper, like at ArenaNet, we call them mappers. And those people had environment art backgrounds, which means they could model and texture, even though they didn't really do as much modeling and texturing. But yeah, it's kind of confusing because every studio has a different role delegation. Let me catch up with chat here. Josh Temple says, I'm currently trying to get a job as a designer, and while I haven't been successful, the advice I've gotten from people in the industry is to have the best portfolio possible and apply everywhere. Okay. So I guess designers as well also need portfolios. And just to make games. Yeah, I would think it'd be harder for a designer. If you just want to do design, you know, if you're not a programmer and you're not an artist, then it's going to be really hard to make games that are impressive, at least at first glance. Thicky Cream asks, oh, okay, so more or less what I'm looking for. What would be your recommendation to become an environment artist? Yeah, that's the modeling and texturing side. So for that, it's just portfolio. You just want to make an amazing portfolio. That's, you know, here's my portfolio, which is not, I don't really need a portfolio anymore because I don't, you know, I'm completely full-time studio owner now. I'm trying to find my chat window. Where did that go? Come on now. So that's my portfolio from years ago. So those, anything before eShade is really, really old. And like I have some stuff from Guild Wars on there, and that was the kind of portfolio you needed to get a job in the industry like 10 years ago. I think the standards have gone up, so I think it needs to be better than that to get a job now. But that's the kind of standard of 3D modeler that you would want to be at. Or those are that's the standard of environments you want to be able to create in order to get a job in the games industry, at least at the AAA level. And breakout, oh, pop out chat, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. This thing is looking better and better. I want to create some decals. So I also want to go to the texture and take out some of this crazy contrast. So let's see if we can open the texture. So it's Apple Toss board. I'm going to go back into Perforce and I'm going to go into textures. And let's get that Apple Toss board. And I'm going to check out that PSD file. And I just want to maybe, I don't know. I feel like, whoa. I feel like maybe I want to like play with the values of this mask a little bit. If I bring up the blacks, that will make the wood grains more subtle, because I feel like they're a little strong and contrasty right now. Other than that, I'd like to maybe desaturate some of these things. So I think the blue is very saturated. Let's go like -10 on the blue. And then maybe darken it a little bit. Try that. That's cool. All right. I wanted to put some more candles in the foreground, so I'm going to put some more candles in the foreground, and then we're going to move on to decals. Yeah, Blender and Unreal and yeah, and whatever other software. Like, you know, some people use ZBrush for sculpting stuff. Substance Designer is a big thing now for making textures, tiling textures and things on different materials, learning PBR workflow, physically based rendering. But it is, you know, it's like that to get into the games industry, you know, basically what I always tell people is whatever company you want to get hired at, your portfolio needs to look better than that game. It needs to look like the best stuff in that game and a little bit better. So if you want to get hired at Naughty Dog, you know, working on Uncharted or something, your portfolio needs to look like the stuff you make needs to look like it could go in Uncharted. And if it can't, then they're not going to hire you, because they need people who can make the stuff that they need, right? Because, you know, they're making a game that looks a certain way. They need people who can make stuff that looks that good. And if someone can't, then, you know, they don't have a place in their production pipeline. So whatever studio it is you want to get hired at, you want to make sure that your portfolio is filled with things that look, I say, even better than the game that you're wanting to get hired for, because typically just an artist without any constraints, like without any design constraints or performance constraints, typically they can make something even better than what we're seeing in a video game, because that, you know, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. You just focus on making it look amazing. But it's very doable, you know, if you put in the work and commit to, you know, making stuff look really high level. It's, you know, it can be done. It can definitely be done. Vista Realm says, are you working with a publisher? How can you find a publisher you can trust? I don't know. We've never worked with a publisher before, and we're self-publishing. But yeah, I think it's hard. You know, if you find one that has really good brand equity, like, you know, your Devolver Digitals or whatever, that helps. But even then, yeah, it's really hard. I think you just have to have a contract that, you know, you want a contract that whatever happens, you're still going to be okay. Like, you know, what they can do to you is limited, even if they, you know, bat you around a little bit, that you're still going to be okay. I put some more candles here in the foreground. I think I want to move some of those candles even more to the foreground. Yeah, I definitely don't envy the search to find a publisher. I think that the more leverage you have, I think that helps a lot. These candles look exactly the same. Maybe we could flip one of these. And I think the best way to get leverage with a publisher is getting interest in your product. And probably the easiest way to show interest in your product is with wish lists. So if you have a game that has a ton of wish lists, that's going to give you a lot of leverage in contract negotiations with a publisher. But I don't know, I've never done contract negotiations with a publisher, so I don't, well, I guess that's not technically true. We've talked with a number of publishers before, but we've never taken it very far in terms of the negotiation. We've never been exchanging contracts or anything. Most of the time I talk with the publisher. I've talked with a few, and they have their terms, and the terms are usually far off enough to where, at least in the past, to where I was just like, all right, that's not going to work. That does not interest us. But I don't know what it would look like nowadays. We haven't really gotten any. I think a lot of the biggest publishers, you know, we've already talked to them, so they haven't come back to ask about Glimmerwick. I know you can definitely get a company that will port it for you. Depending on the game, it could be us. I think that there's a number of publishers that do that sort of thing, that will just put it on consoles for you. But yeah, typically if it's a big publisher or the big publishing deal, then they're gonna want your PC release as well. Okay, so just moving those candles around, hopefully that looks a little bit better. I think the flames are still a little bit big, so maybe I want to just grab all these candle flame pieces. Maybe I just want to select like kind of a random smattering of them and just scale some of them down, because I think a lot of them are really big. So like 0.6. Let's move on to the decals. So I'm going to make a new well, I don't know. Should I make individual textures for all these things? Let's look at our reference. Yeah, they're just kind of smattered on here. Let's just make an atlas of maybe 4. So let's go new 1024 by 1024. Losing my chat window here. And then I just want to grab our mask. I'm going to grab I always have trouble copying masks over here. Let's copy the entire layer, stick it in there. The mask, unfortunately, has not been put in the right place. I'm going to control click. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to flood fill that layer with any random color. I'm going to control A, and I'm going to control C. I'm going to control A, and I'm going to control shift V. There, now that'll paste it. Then I can control click, then create a new layer, then create a mask. There we go. I'm going to unlink the mask, and then I will set this flood fill, the dark color. Here we go. Now I can paint something. I want to paint. Here's where I want to sort of, we got pumpkins. We could do Pumpkin Moon Festival. We could do moons. How's this pumpkin? Let me grab this pumpkin. Pumpkin is a little bit low texel density. And what I want to do is just desaturate. Actually, no, I think I want to put this on a new layer. Desaturate and just see what we can do here. How about that? Now I'm going to flood fill everything, the background with black. And then merge this down. Mr. Realms asks if I meet up with other devs. We used to, we used to live in Seattle, and we used to go to the indie dev meetups at Optimism Brewery in Seattle. And those happen every month. And I know most big cities have some kind of indie meetup, and those were fun. Of course, I make games with my wife, so and then we also have a full-time programmer who lives in England as well. So yeah, it's not. We don't, or at least I don't. Fortunately, I don't really deal with the loneliness these days. Although even in the past when I worked solo, I don't tend to get lonely for whatever reason. I'm just kind of a lone wolf, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to make those lines right there become black. I'm going to control click on a channel, and I'm going to flood fill this with white. I hear devs like Jonathan Blow talk of bad depression post-releasing game. Have you experienced that? Yeah, I think with Eastshade, I definitely had some weird feelings. When you put your whole self into something, it's like when I was working on Eastshade, I often told Jacqueline, like, if I die, at least I want it to be after I finish Eastshade, sort of thing. Like, it was that level of impetus to finish the game. And I thought about it every single day, probably every single hour of my life. I was always thinking about the game, always dreaming about the game. And then when it's done, yeah, there's kind of a weird an emptiness, I guess. The sort of purpose that you had in your life is gone. But you have to be really, 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 really into your game, like just like eyeballs deep into your game as like a passion project. Like it has to be completely like, you know, linked to your soul in order to feel like that. But then when you do finish it and you ship it, particularly for a game that had a huge development cycle like Eastshade, right? It took 5 years full time. It was my whole life for 5 years. And it was all my life savings and it was just, you know, everything. Then when it's done, you kind of don't know what to do with yourself. I wouldn't say I went into a depression, but it was weird. It's not a great feeling. Definitely a melancholy of sorts. I'm trying to make this. I wish these lines were a little bit darker. Anyhow, I want to see what this pumpkin looks like. So I've got a pumpkin on here. I'm going to save this texture, file save as. Let's call it like apple toss board decals. Vista Realms asks, would you ever do DLC or microtransactions for a free-to-play game? I wouldn't, no. I have absolutely no interest in that. I just don't like that. I don't like that medium. I don't like trying to like sell people on my wares during the game. I just really don't like that format. Plus the premium game thing is working pretty well for us. I'm gonna go into Blender and, well, we need a material for this. So let's go ahead and make a decal material. Decal. Vista Realms asks about early access. You know, I think for the right kind of game, it can make sense, but if our games are adventure games, so they're very, you know, narrative and they're very content based, right? So like people play them and they use them up. It's not the kind of thing where you play for hundreds of hours with your friends or something like that. So with a content oriented game, I think that early access is terrible for the consumer. Like I hate playing early access games. Well, I hate early access in general as a consumer. I just don't want to play half finished games. I want to play fully finished games, but particularly for a narrative game, you're kind of spilling your beans, you know, before. I just don't want our most passionate fans to play the worst version of the game, I guess. So that's why it doesn't interest me, but I think it can make sense for some kind of games, particularly, you know, if you need, if you have a highly systemic game and you need a lot of player feedback. But you can always get player feedback. You can run a, you know, closed beta or something like that, or an open beta. You don't necessarily have to go early access. It also kind of divides up your release beat into 2 smaller beats, which can sometimes not be great for marketing purposes. But it just depends on your game, and it depends on how you roll it out. I'm looking for a material that has the correct sort of decal. I think we want a blend shader. Actually, we made a material that I think will work great. Right here, it's Apple Toss Seam Blend. Let's duplicate that and call this Apple Toss board decal. I'm gonna copy the name of that material, Control C. Hey 11 Dusks, welcome to the stream. Thanks for dropping by. Just discovered your channel, rock on. And thank you for the kind words, and I'm glad you're digging the content. And thanks for the good luck wishes as well. I'm gonna grab the Apple Toss decals here, and let's see. I'm gonna make it like a golden color. And then we also want to remove our background and our black background in Photoshop. There we go. Okay, so now we've got, grab that texture. Oof, I just double clicked it. Okay. we want to remove the MIPS and we want to do alpha's transparency. And then I want to go into Blender and add a plane, and I'm going to parent it to our cube, our dummy object, which means it'll get exported. And then I'm going to add a new material to it and get our decal, add that image. Apple toss board decal. And I'm just going to stick it on here. I'm going to try to find a place for it. Okay. Just get that. Right here, and I guess we need to rotate it. And now we can sort of just try to find where this goes. First, I just want to see how it looks. I wish that I could get it to move on the right plane. Maybe if I just parent it to this actual object. Maybe now I'll partition it out and hopefully it'll have the correct. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And if I move the mesh to the origin, it should be good. How does that look? Let's export that. Currently, we're working on a mini game, an cornhole-esque sort of mini game for the Pumpkin Moon Festival in Songs of Glimmerwick, our Witch Academy RPG we're working on. So that is a very bright gold. I'm just going to turn that down to make it more muted. And it looks like for this decal, I think that the grain pattern is just not quite working. So we want like a more, we want a more like, we want more chunks taken out of this to make it really look like a decal that is painted on wood. Maybe even reducing the opacity will help. I have something from Eastshade. We have these decals that went on walls that maybe can work. I'm going to head over to the Eastshade folder here. And I'm going to go into our assets and go to textures. I saw Derek lose a lecture on trailers where he mentioned you made content based on the trailer concepts. I talked to Derek once where he was asking me about the making of trailers. I know he was talking to a number of developers. Did he mention me specifically, or was it just like a general thing? I'm curious because I don't think I've seen Derek's recent talk. But if you mentioned me specifically, then I want to watch it. You know, if someone mentions you, you want to go see what they're saying. When you were in development, when Songs of Glimmerwick's reveal trailer came out. When were you in development? Do you mean like where were you in development? Teletext, thanks very much for dropping by and thanks for the kind words. I'm glad you're digging the content. Do you ever use the shrink wrap modifier for decals in Blender? I have used it before, but not usually for decals. I usually just float the plane. Just to have it hang out. 11 Dusks says, okay, perhaps your girlfriend or wife. Wait, I know a miss that will 100% play this game. Well, he says, I thought I heard you mention that you would try Godot for your next game. Yeah, that's right. We're definitely going to try Godot. Actually, I've already messed around in Godot a little bit. I think that it's going to be... I think it has all the graphics features we'd ever need to make an unbelievable looking game. What development phase were you? I think we had... So Noam is asking where were we in development when we released the Songs of Glimmerwick trailer? We had a lot of mechanics in. I don't know how much actual playable game we had. Not much, probably. Like, I don't think we had a vertical slice yet at that point. I think we were really just focused on, like, we had like quest systems and we had the farming system, and I know we had massive we had a lot of visual stuff. Like, we had like most of the school illustrated and modeled out, and you could run around all that. Like, a lot of the world, I would say, was done. But in terms of all the quests and things, I think we only had a few working quests at that point. And catch up with chat here. About me in the game. Wow. I need to watch that. Crazy. Definitely have to watch that. Okay, so I'm gonna look for these decals. I think it's somewhere in here. I'm gonna do like asterisk asterisk decal. Not a shadow decal, so don't know why. Got to figure out what we called this thing. Bug. I have no idea what we called this thing, man. None whatsoever. So it's not in the textures folder. Gosh. Do I have to actually open the game? Wall painting? It could be wall painting. Okay, here's a material. Come on now. Come on, here's a targa file, wall painting 2. Let's open that. Oh man, no, it's not wall painting. That's an actual painting. Dang it. Maybe cave art or something. Art. What do we call this thing? Oh my god, I'm going crazy. Dude, I think we have to open the actual game. I just want that mask that we used on it. But that might be the only way. Let's go to the hub. Vista Realms asks, if a trailer flops bad or has had feedback, should we ditch the game and try a different idea? That's a hard question. It's a hard question. I would say, like, I don't know about trailers necessarily. Like, but if you launch your Steam page, and you get like 100 wish lists or something, or less, or 500 wish lists even, maybe, you know, months have gone by and you're not even at 1,000 wish lists. You need to act as if you are not going to make any money. You need to, because that's overwhelmingly the most likely situation. So I would say, like, if you really want to make money on your game, or you really need to make money on your game, like, this is a commercial endeavor. By the way, I'm opening Unity while I gab here. I'm opening an very old version of Unity. I'm opening Eastshade so I can go to the cave with these little cave paintings and click on them to see what texture their material is referencing. Yeah, so if your Steam page is barely getting any wish lists, your game is not going to make money. It's just not. It's like, you know, it very rarely happens, right? Like 1 in 100 something that, you know, at some point your wish list curve will start getting crazier and crazier. Typically, if you launch your Steam page and you have a trailer up, and you have screenshots up, and you have marketing copy there, and all that is representative of your final game or close to what your final game is going to be, and it's not getting any wish lists, or getting very few wish lists, right? Like less than a handful of wish lists a week. There's just very little chance that the game is going to make money. So I think that one should act according to that. So if you need money, you know, from your game, then yeah, you need to abandon ship. You need to change your whole strategy. You need to do something really drastic, because it's not on the right path, I would say. But what would happen for us if we released a trailer and it got almost no response? Yeah, I think that we have to make money on our games. It's our livelihood. So, you know, depending on the scale of its flop, like if we got like 1,000 wish lists or something, then we would be really, really worried. And I think we would have to start talking about how we can completely change the thing we're making to appeal to a different market, or we would have to analyze exactly what went wrong and why people aren't interested in it. It would be really hard, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what we would do, but I guess you have to consider that it's not only a possibility, but it's almost certainty that your game won't make any money if you've released a Steam page and you're getting, you know, not that many wish lists. See. Oh yeah, I think Godot has everything. Like back when I started Eastshade, people were saying the same thing about Unity. You're like, you're gonna make a beautiful first-person, high-fidelity fantasy game in Unity? No, that's the wrong engine. You know, but Eastshade looks great. Vista Realm says, I like Thomas Brush, but he was a bit blunt about the game. Yeah, I don't think he understood what the game was when he opened with that. That actually did make me really uncomfortable when he started. I was like, when he said it's a really simple gimmick. I know he didn't mean it in a mean way. He wasn't trying to like throw shade, but he just thought, he probably thinks that this is a game where you just sort of walk around and make paintings. And that was like, I don't really want to fight him right now. We just started the interview. I don't really want to be like defensive right away. So just like, whatever. If people will hear that and they'll either be interested in the game to go check it out, or they're not interested in that kind of game anyway, whatever. But yeah, and that, you know, I think that I blame our trailers. Like, I don't think the game describes itself well, but hopefully that gameplay summary trailer will make it, you know, we'll make it more clear what the games are about. I need to figure out how the heck this this game works, because we're in Eastshade here, and I just want to find this cave that has the cave art. 11 Dusk says, leaving my real job soon to start full-time indie. That is very exciting. Okay. What communication channels would you advise the most? What does that mean? Communication channels. Communicate. I don't exactly know what that means in this context. I don't feel especially ready to do exposing stuff. Okay, so I talking about like marketing stuff. So I assume the best plan would be classical Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're either ready to show your game or you're not. And if you're ready to show your game, then I think that you should show it as much as you can in every, you know, capacity that makes sense for you and is efficient for you. I think there is a point where your game's not polished looking enough to where you'll show it, but you won't get any response because it's not impressing anyone. And putting any work into marketing is kind of a waste of time. So you have to get to a point where your game is impressive looking. And once you get to that point, then you can start doing the social media, the PR, the marketing stuff. I'm trying to find the scenes folder. Sorry, I'm gabbing here and I'm not being very efficient. Here we go, scenes. Okay, so let's find our, I'm assuming it's going to be in West Purple or East Purple, one of those. I'm loading in a chunk of the game. I'm going to try to find the place. See if I can find, here we are. Okay, so here is the underground area and here is the cave art. Finally, come on now. It has to be a decal. It has to. There's no way it's just built into the wall there. Achra carving. Okay, so that is using a sprite called Achra carving. Achra carving. I'm gonna show it in Explorer. There we go. Okay, I finally found him. It does not even have the texture that I thought it was gonna have. Like it literally has no texture on it at all. So that is the stupidest little side mission. That was completely useless. Oh boy. That was a goose hunt. Absolute goose hunt. That's not working. Anyhow, I actually think I might have to run. Let me BRB 1 second. Okay. Fortunately, I've got to run, folks. But it's been a good stream. I want to thank everyone for hanging out here on the YouTube stream. It's my first time YouTube streaming, so you know, we'll see. I don't know. It seemed all right. It seemed like about the same, I think, as Twitch. We'll see though. I'm not sure how many new people are finding it though. I think it's probably mostly people who've already been subscribing to the channel, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to do a little bit more research, maybe get some stuff on it. Let me catch up a chat before I run here. Let's see. Jerome says, keep the account separate for the gamers and keeps the dev work progress separate for us. Oh, okay. In response to 11, let's see. I'm wondering if it would be interesting to share problematics / development I do on maybe a personal account. In my opinion, it's a lot of work to share like the dev process. So I don't really separate our like normal marketing efforts from like the dev facing stuff. They're kind of all one thing to me. Like I do a lot of dev. I've written lots of articles on Kama Sutra. I obviously do devlogs. I do, you know, developer sort of commentary on my Twitter and on YouTube and everything. It can be really good. Like if if you get like a good little brand going, it can definitely be decent for the game side of things, especially if you have a game that has broad appeal. If your game has really narrow appeal, then I think that there's not as much crossover. But if you have a more broadly appealing game, I do think that it can, those things can cross over. I know for Eastshade they definitely did, but I think it just depends on what kind of game you have. But it's a ton of work, so I would say, you know, it's kind of hard to focus on both at once if you're just starting up your development. To have a more developer-facing thing, I think sometimes people will like start a YouTube channel or something, and they'll get really sucked into it to the point where they're like, it's almost like they start focusing on that as sort of their path. So yeah, different ways to do it for sure. All right, rock on. Thanks everyone for dropping by, and thanks for asking questions and stuff. And let's see. People might host you. That's true. Good thoughts. Good thing to think about. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to call it a stream there, and hopefully I'll catch some of y'all next time, whether that's on Twitch or on YouTube. See ya.